The training yard of Galactic Coalition Academy Station Theta 9 was designed to humble every species that passed through it. The gravity plating ran at 1.3 standard, uncomfortable for most, punishing for a few. The obstacle course alone had broken the will of 3 Vorkai cadets last semester, and Vorkai were beings who could bench press a small shuttle. Dr. Kale Veyron watched from the observation deck, his 4 iridescent eyes cycling through visible and ultraviolet spectrums as he catalogued the morning training session below. His clipboard, a real one, not a datapad, because Kale was 73 years old and refused to change, was already half filled with notes. 7 cadets had formed a loose circle around a single figure in the center of the yard. Kale leaned forward. The figure in the center was Cadet Mara Ellison. Human. 22 years old. Origin, Earth, which meant she had grown up on a Deathworld that had been actively trying to murder her species for 4 billion years and had simply failed. She was not particularly large by human standards. Kale had reviewed her file. Average height. Average build. The intake physician had noted she carried about 12% more muscle density than a baseline coalition citizen, but that was normal for humans. They were all like that. Evolution had over-engineered them into something the galaxy was still trying to properly classify. The 7 cadets surrounding her were anything but average. Cadet Dravon, Chell species, 8 limbs, natural exoskeleton rated to absorb impacts that would shatter durasteel plating. Cadet Him, a Sirathy, whose bioluminescent musculature allowed for reaction speeds that made them nearly impossible to track with the naked eye. Then there were the Korath twins, a paired species who shared neural link and could coordinate attacks with the precision of a single mind in 2 bodies. The remaining 3 were Vreth cadets, pack hunters by evolutionary design, their whole combat philosophy built around synchronized overwhelm. It was a scenario exercise. 7-on-1. The goal was simple: the 7 cadets had to touch a sensor pad mounted on Mara's back. She had to keep them from doing it for 90 seconds. Commander Thix, the training officer, had set this up as a lesson in tactical improvisation for the 7 surrounding cadets. Let them feel what it was like to coordinate a complex surround on a moving target. Standard curriculum. Dr. Kale Veyron had been asked to observe because the Academy's Xenobiology department needed current fieldwork hours to maintain certification. He had expected to spend 90 seconds watching a competent but unremarkable exercise. The buzzer sounded. What happened next took approximately 4 seconds. Kale's pen stopped moving. Cadet Dravon lunged first. The Chell always did, exoskeleton or not. They were impatient, and Mara simply was not where Dravon lunged. She had moved before the lunge fully committed, a half step left and a pivot that put Drevon's momentum to work for her. She caught one of his outer limbs, used the angular force to redirect him into the path of the incoming Sirathy, and him, reaction speeds and all, ran directly into 200 kilograms of exoskeletal Chell because him had been tracking Mara's predicted position, not her actual one. The Korath twins came in coordinated from the left flank. Kale noted they telegraphed this with a microglance at each other. The neural link was powerful, but the habit of eye contact was hard to break. Mara read it. She stepped into the twins' approach rather than away, which was so counterintuitive that both of them hesitated for 0.3 seconds, Kale estimated, his xenobiological mind cataloging everything automatically. And in that 0.3 seconds she had ducked under the near twins' reaching arm, placed herself between the 2 of them, and their own coordinated grapple closed on each other. The 3 Vreth cadets snarled and adjusted their pack formation, spreading wide to eliminate angles. This was textbook Vreth predator protocol. It had been honed by millions of years of hunting on a world where prey animals frequently outmassed them by a factor of 10. Mara stopped moving. She stood still in the center of the reconfigured formation and looked at each of the 3 Vreth cadets in turn. Kale's pen hovered. She was reading them. He could see it in her posture, the particular quality of stillness that his research notes categorized as human threat assessment mode, a behavioral pattern so old it predated their species' sapience. She wasn't frightened. Her cortisol indicators, visible to him through his ultraviolet spectrum sight as a faint heat bloom, were elevated, but controlled. Channeled. The breath moved. Mara moved with them in a way that was frankly upsetting to observe clinically. She used the leftmost breath as a pivot, the middle one as a shield against the right, and by the time Commander Thix called time at 90 seconds, the sensor pad on her back had not been touched. The yard was very quiet. Then Cadet Dravon, 8 limbs still somewhat tangled with Cadet him, said something in Chell that the universal translator rendered as that was not a fair exercise. Mara reached down and offered him a hand up. She was breathing hard. There was a bruise forming on her left forearm where Drevon's exoskeleton had clipped her on the first lunge. She was smiling. "Same time tomorrow," she said. Dr. Cale Veyron submitted his fieldwork report that evening. It was thorough, clinical, and exactly what the certification board required. He also submitted a secondary document, unofficial, personal, flagged as xenobiological observation notes, that read, in part, "Subject exhibits the characteristic human behavioral cluster I have identified in 17 prior specimens: genuine enjoyment of physical adversity, accelerated threat calibration under stress, and what I can only describe as a social warmth that intensifies rather than diminishes following confrontation." She helped each cadet to their feet. She laughed. She asked them to do it again. "I have spent 40 years studying Deathworld origin species. I have observed Korath warpriests in ceremonial combat. I have catalogued the territorial disputes of 8 apex predator species across 6 star systems. The human is the only organism I have studied that appeared to find this, I must use the word, fun. I am requesting a transfer to the Xenobiology Department's Human Behavioral Studies Division. I had previously declined this posting twice on the grounds that I found the subject matter unsettling. I am updating that assessment. The subject matter is not unsettling. The subject matter is the most fascinating thing I have encountered in a 40-year career, and I have been a coward about it. I would like to study them properly. I would like to understand how a species that evolved on a world that should have killed them every single day for millions of years came out the other side, like Cadet Ellison, laughing, offering a hand, asking if anyone wants to go again. I suspect the answer has something to do with stubbornness. Or love. In my experience studying humans, these are often the same thing. Dr. Cale Veyron, Senior Xenobiologist, Coalition Academy Station Theta 9-inch. 3 weeks later, Cale was standing at the edge of the training yard again. Officially, he was there for fieldwork hours. Mara Ellison saw him from across the yard, waved cheerfully, and jogged over. "You're back," she said. "I requested a transfer," he said, somewhat stiffly. "To Human Behavioral Studies." She blinked. Then she grinned, and Cale noted, clinically, that the human smile, in its genuine form, involved approximately 43 distinct facial muscles and produced in the observer a neurochemical response that his species' medical literature classified as involuntary trust induction. He had written 3 papers about it. He still found it disarming. "So you're going to study humans?" Mara said. "I am going to attempt to," Cale said. "I have found that humans frequently behave in ways that undermine my hypotheses." She laughed. "That's just called being a person." "For most species," Cale said carefully, "it is not. For most species, behavior follows pattern very reliably." Mara tilted her head. "And for humans?" Cale considered the question with the full weight of his 40 years of research. "For humans," he said, "the pattern appears to be, find the hardest thing, do it anyway, help whoever is nearby, and then ask if anyone wants to try again." Mara was quiet for a moment. Then, "Yeah," she said. "That sounds about right." She offered him her hand, the human greeting gesture, the one that meant "I mean you no harm, I offer you my weapon" hand to show it, and Cale took it, and made a note. Subject, warm. Recommend continued study. Indefinitely.